Mayor Miller,
Here.
Mr. Lopez,
Here.
Mr. Self,
Here.
Mr. Robinson,
Here.
Mr. Elkins,
Here.
Mr. Merrick,
Here.
Ms. Parker, here. Ms. Cordova, here. Mr. Rackler.
Here. Okay, if you will please stand. Our birthday girl, Ms. Cordova, will lead us in the invocation and I'll lead us in the pledges.
Bow your head with me. Heavenly Father, thank you for the rain that you provided for us this past week. It's greatly appreciated. We appreciate everything that you do for us and for our community. Please guide us tonight to make decisions that are pleasing to you. In this we pray, amen.
Amen. Join me in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, to be a symbol of perfect friendships among the United cultures.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. First item is public comment. The public has the opportunity to provide comment on subjects regarding city business during the public comment period. Speakers' comments will be limited to 3 minutes unless the mayor and/or councilors request more information. The time limit is given in an effort to allow public input, but also to move the agenda forward in a prompt yet efficient manner. All speakers must sign in at the beginning of the meeting. Topics are limited to 6 speakers per topic. I have one person signed up, Karen Kibbe, to speak about the animal control facility. If you will please come up here and state your name for the record, please.
Karen Kibbe. Here.
Over here. Yeah. Yes, ma'am, please.
Karen Kibbe.
Yes, ma'am, please.
Thank you for allowing me to share my concerns with you this evening. For 45 years, we have lived on Industrial Drive on the outskirts of Portales. Last week, I learned from my neighbor, Christine Brandenburg, that the city of Portales was planning on building an animal control shelter across from our homes. This will greatly diminish our quality of life. This includes my neighbors, Michael and Angela Lovato, Jay and Christine Brandenburg, JD Kibbe, Mona Sparks. We've all owned our homes and our property between 25 and 45 years. The homes on the north of us would also be affected on the Floyd Highway. My concern number 1 is the barking, the noise from the barking dogs during the day, but especially at night. And we all know that when barking starts, then all the other dogs in the close vicinity join in and they start barking. This is going to affect our ability to get a restful night of sleep. The smells and odors from the facility is also a concern. A couple of summers ago, we lost a dog and I went to the control shelter and I walked in the back and the odor was so horrific that I literally could barely even stay in there. I held my breath until I got back up to the office and asked for the paperwork and said, can I please go sit in the car and fill this out because I just can't stay in here. And so they were kind in the way that they let me do that. I'm concerned about how the dogs that are euthanized are taken care of. If they're put in plastic bags and put in a dumpster and in the summer months, what kind of odor is that going to present, or are they going to be incinerated? How are they going to be dealt with? My third concern as a property owner, what's this going to do to the value of our property? How many people would really like to say that they lived across the street from an animal shelter? Another thing is, years ago, the city of Portales made a commitment to having a recreational facility in the west side of Industrial Drive. We have a softball complex that attracts more people than probably any other place in Portales most nights, from early mornings on weekends and until after dark. The facility and parking lots full of cars, spectators, people, softball players. They enjoy being there, camaraderie of friends and family. They enjoy visiting and playing and cheering. And how enjoyable is an event going to be with constant barking in the background, or perhaps bad odors, as the wind always blows from the south and the west, so it's going to come straight out. Also, the walking trail, there's walkers, there's joggers, there's bikers, there's ladies pushing babies, and they go out there for, a relaxing and a pleasing walk. And here again, I think with the wind blowing in that direction, it's gonna affect the quality of life of those people to enjoy that recreational facility. There's Altaterra and the Western Skies and other residential areas. They are also going to be on the west side. I feel like there's other property that Portales owns that could be more efficiently used than the area that they're looking at now. I know the old softball fields farther to the west, I think is open and would be a much better choice than what has been made. Thank you.
Thank you. That is all of our public comment. Our next item is minutes of the previous meeting held October 8th, 2024. Have those in your packet. There are no changes or corrections. I'll entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Cordova, second by Mr. Robinson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item is a water update. I don't see Mr. Mendoza, so it'll be Mr. Morton.
Mayor, Council. So it's just a water update. So currently the west tank level indicator is down the cable snap. And so we're getting a quote to get that fixed and do a tank inspection at the same time. That requires a diver to actually go in. So our average gallons per minute for October was 1,764. Average tank level was 27 feet. Currently we have 21% of the well field is resting. Blackwater is pumping 2.8 million gallons per day. Right now, Sandhill is pumping 470,000 gallons per day to fill Lime Street back up. They did a quarterly water cycle through the tank. We have 34 resting or pumping wells, 9 resting. And since January 1st, the water department has replaced 13 non-operable fire hydrants. Currently waiting for more inventory to be that replacement plan going. The flow meters for the tanks, those parts are at the manufacturer calibrated. We have no ETA or any other updates from the manufacturer right now. And Smithco will be doing work at the Lime Street tank. Two, they're doing excavating for the pit with the pipeline. And then, as everybody knows, we have the F4 working routes. On there.
Any questions for Mr. Morris?
Mr. Mayor, if I might.
Sure.
I've seen a lot in the last week or so about the guys that are going around and testing the water meters
Yes, sir.
are not filling the holes back up, that they're leaving behind meters. And there's a lot of people around town that are concerned about the danger of that and the fact that just being left like that.
So we talked about that this morning. They were going back around, so I guess they fill it with sand. I need to look into that, but they fill it with sand, and as it rains or as stuff settles, the holes come back. But they do go back around, and that was their only job today. They were supposed to be going back around and refill the holes.
Anything else? Thank you, sir. Now we're going to move on to our action items. The first item is from the fire department, memorandum of understanding with the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, state fire marshals, and the city of Portales Fire Department. Chief Cap.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Bring before you tonight a memorandum of understanding or an MOU between us and the State Fire Marshal's Office. For a long time, we were able to provide business fire inspections for our community. In 2020, when Scott Candelaria resigned from our department, we had a ton of people that went to class that we thought we'd be able to still maintain that service and be able to add personnel on the operations side. Unfortunately, our operational calls for service increased by over 35%, and we've been unable to meet that expectation on top of the demand for service during that time frame due to the calls for service. So the MOU before you tonight turns all commercial fire inspections back over to the fire marshal's office. It does not pertain to any home business because the state cannot inspect any home. That will still fall on us. And I stand for you.
What-
Is there regional fire marshals that can do this, or do they all have to come out of?
They're structured different and they restructure quite frequently. At this time, they typically send a representative out of Albuquerque, that takes care of our area.
How much of a backlog are we looking at for a business to get?
From what I've seen, they've been able to get to them quicker than we've been able to.
Okay.
But I don't know with the increase if that will sustain or not. And I'd love to be able to continue to provide this service, but the operational need takes precedent.
Any further questions?
Mr. Kathy, when you say all services, that's not something where we can do a hybrid where if we're available, we can do those. Do they have to do everyone?
Problem is the infrequency causes a delay that's greater than if we just turn it over to the state. Because there may be a month that we have guys that are freed up because the call volume allows, but then the next 3 months, nobody's available. And we don't want to leave the community hanging to where the state has people that this is their only job, this is what they do. They get it scheduled, they get it handled in a more efficient and timely manner.
What is the price difference for the business owner? Okay.
I did notice though in the very first part of that, the cooperative disclaimer said that they could call on you if need be.
Yes.
So it's not that it's not a possibility in an
And it doesn't say
emergency.
our possibility to call them for an investigation. If something is suspicious that we need them to investigate, this is mainly for the commercial business fire inspections that are required. Some business annually, others for their business license.
I have one more thing. So with the personnel, shortage, I would still recommend that somebody keeps the certification just in case you are called on from the state marshal. That way we're not holding anybody up.
But I completely agree, and with us still doing home daycares and any home businesses, that's a necessity as well.
So it'll keep that certification. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Further questions? It's a pleasure to council.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Cordova, second by Ms. Parker. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Next is community service, Ms. McClellan. Approval of recommendation for resolution number PC 2024-2025-30. A variance at 1205 North Avenue O for a carport that does not meet Ocala Municipal Code regulations. This was unanimously approved by Planning and Zoning Commission. Ms. McClellan.
I just understand.
Mhm.
All right, so we go to the next slide. So this is the property, it's 1205 North Avenue O. They're applying for a carport, which is in that red area. As you can see, it meets all the setbacks that we expect, it's just bigger than we allow without a variance in the front yard. Ms. Dan, go to the next one. No, so here it is. So carports from 300 to 500 square feet are allowable in the front yard without any variance. Anything larger than that has to come to you guys. This will be 644 square feet. When they turned in their permit, they did what was allowable, so they have a 500 square foot carport there. They would just like to add, they're waiting for your approval to add the last 144 square feet to finish out the entire project. We sent this out or published this for the public hearing, sent 7 certified letters to property owners, 6 certified letters to public utilities. We received 2 for property owners and 1 for public utilities. We had no one against the proposal, and it passed in the state at the E&Z Commission. Next one, that's it. We have any questions? I'll do my best to answer them.
Questions?
Yes. So going on this drawing, they show an existing garage there. And then there's a red section there. That's gonna be added in. The red section.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So I think that covers the car part and tire, so yeah, so the first part is already there, just gonna be out the side part that they're adding.
So the existing structure sets away from the garage and then just
So yeah, the existing structure, that's the carport, is against the garage, which is allowable. They're just gonna do this little red stretch. So it turns it more of an allocated, because right now it's not that far.
That's within the county, ain't it?
It's pretty close. It's not super within city limit. I mean, it is within city limits, but not in our heavily dense area or our outskirts.
Further questions? Pleasure to council.
I make a motion we approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Lopez, second by Mr. Rattler. There's no further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Move to the city manager. The first one is request approval of resolution number 2024-42, a resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of a water project fund loan grant agreement by and between the New Mexico Finance Authority and the city of Portales, the borrower grantee, in the total amount of $500,000, including a loan in the amount of $50,000.
Mayor, council. So this is the resolution for the water trust board funds, with a $450,000 for the grant and $50,000 loan. And we have that month, $50,000, we already have that set aside, so.
And this is for,
Line food. Tank. Sorry, I forgot.
So renovation of Lime Street.
This is for planning design.
Planning.
Yes, sir.
It's expensive.
So just to plan it is 500,000? Is that what?
Planning and design.
Could you kind of elaborate, because we newbies kind of got a little, or I did anyway, got a little confused on that. We thought the 500,000 was gonna do the job. Evidently, this is a $3 to $4 million project.
Correct.
Fair to say.
Yes, so next fiscal year is when we will be asking for the money for construction for the water trust. It's a phased approach.
And we've compared that cost to rehabilitate that one with the cost of the new one. Rather than rehabbing an old tank.
I don't know the answer.
Sorry to bring in, biblical reference, but putting new wine and old wineskins is kind of my thought process.
I have to refer to, so I'll get the answer to your question.
further questions?
Do you know when the last time that the tank was relined or?
I do not.
Well, it's been a long time. I don't
Really
know.
when it was put in the ground.
I don't remember doing it since I've been on the council. I don't know about Diane or Oscar or Jake.
What, you're talking about the tank at Eastern or?
Line Street,
Line Street?
the underground tank.
No, I can't remember any time that it was.
I don't even remember it being done while I was at the fire department, so.
Only thing I can remember that we did, drain the top surface. And there was a constant, there was a project and let a lot of water out and then refill. I don't remember being line.
I may be wrong, but I'm thinking that we asked specifically about this during one of the meetings. Now, you weren't here, Chris, this was before your time. So this is not you. But I was thinking that we were told that this was being requested to reline or re-seal the inside of that tank.
And probably a good assumption based off of the heat project and the pipeline going into it.
Because you knew that I knew that because you and I had a meeting with Orlando to discuss them bringing in and tying in that tank.
Correct.
And during that time, I said it'd be great if we could get all this coordinated where we could go in and resurface and seal that tank while this is going on. Because we have to drain for that time.
That's right.
So I'm a little taken back that this is just for planning and design. Seems like an excessive amount.
And this is to receive the funds. We've been awarded these funds. That's what this is for.
Right. But if we receive them for that purpose, then that's what we've got to spend them on.
That's correct.
We can't change what we're spending it
We
on,
can,
so. That's where the discrepancy lies.
Is that a grant?
it's a grant loan.
I don't want to turn down any funding.
Please
I mean-
don't.
We definitely need to take it, but it's just, I'm just.
You can always send some of it back, but don't turn it down.
The original request was the 7 million. Like, I believe it was around $7 million, but they would not give it to us because we didn't have planning and design first. And so it's a phased approach at how we're getting the money. It's planning, design, and then construction.
And it's my understanding that we're already in the queue for the construction once the planning is done there.
The
Assuming-
planning and design is just for this project. It's not any other.
Under this grant agreement,
Under
under this particular grant agreement.
But that's assuming we get the funds next year to start.
Well-
construction.
I've been told that the funds are, we will get them once this is, because they kind of approved the entire project, but they're only going to send the funding down
Okay.
in parts. That's the way I understand it. That may not be the way it is, but that's the way I've been
And
told.
there is more funding that is coming in through the Water Trust Board for the Wellfield project. So this is just for Lime Street. So we're getting funds.
Any further questions?
And there's absolutely no way we can amend the contract the way it's written.
No,
As far as
not
I
at
knew.
this point.
No.
No, once it was approved by council the last time and then went to the Water Trust Board, that's where we're at.
And I did ask that question previously. Further questions? What's the pleasure on resolution 2024-42?
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, I'm gonna give that one to Ms. Parker and a second by Mr. Elkins. And on this one, I need you to call the roll, please.
Sir. Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Self,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Elkins,
Yes.
Mr. Merrick,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Cordova,
Yes.
and Mr. Rocco.
Yes.
That motion passes. Next item. Request approval of a loan grant agreement, right of way certificate on behalf of the city of Portales. Final opinion of council for the borrower, grantee, delivery, deposit, and cross receipt certificate. General and no litigation certificate.
These are all the company documents that go with the resolution, the loan grant agreement and everything that is required to sign. One note that I just want to speak of is on page 11 of the loan grant agreement, so page 48 of the packet. You look at paragraph S, use of project. So it says shall not involve or anticipate a sale, lease, mortgage, pledge for the relocation to the disposal of any part of the product or design during its useful life, provided. However, that if the project is a joint project with borrower, grantee, and other qualifying entities, borrower, grantee, and the other qualifying entities may, with the express written approval of the NMFA, and not otherwise enter into an agreement allocating the ownership and operational and maintenance responsibilities for the project during the term of the agreement. So in layman's terms, what talking with our attorney, from this point forward, I think, since we are we're not in talks with EPCOR, but since it is something that is being looked at for any construction, we will need to disclose that. And that in itself could affect how we receive funds or how much we get, or if we get any at all. So this agreement would be for any that's going to come after it too.
And is this standard language in all of the agreements with NMFA through the Water Trust Board? Is that?
I haven't seen it before. And Neither is. Or Jim.
So what is the agreement term? Because it just says during the agreement term.
Correct, and the useful, it's basically the useful life of whatever you are constructing or rehabilitating or.
You don't think it'd be the loan?
This is just a note for.
On page 9.
What?
Agreement term is on page 9,
Thank you.
bottom H.
I will bring it up because it's just something that we need to pay attention to. If we will have to disclose that.
Disclose that to
We will have to let the NFA.
NFA. Okay, okay.
So page 9 and what?
It shows you the
So it's page
definition
46 of the packet, but
shows you the
9 of the agreement.
of the agreement term.
Yeah, it's on page 46 of the packet, but it's page 9 of the.
So useful life of the tank. So what is the life of a tank?
Or is it,
How it
is it the construction project or the actual
is. It's the
tank?
construction project and then useful life of the thing that you are constructing.
That's where you read that?
Yeah, that's the definition. There's other language in the contract talking about how that applies. But for the question and the issue you're bringing up, that's the definition.
Further questions? So I suppose that if we were not to approve this loan and grant agreement and this right of way and all of this other stuff, then that negates what we just did.
Correct.
But there's also continuing discussions with EPCOR negate everything that we're doing.
I think we'll have to delve into that based on that was. So is this a separate document than what we just approved?
The resolution, this is a separate document. The resolution is the city's approval and then that goes to the water trust board. This is the actual one itself.
But the resolution, the resolution that we just approved was for planning and design mode.
Correct.
Not for water.
This is a loan grant agreement for the planning and design. I am saying that if this is in there now, it will probably be in there from now on, so that if this, we would have to disclose that we are potentially looking at a sale
In the next application.
in the next application for fiscal year 26. Yes.
Which could affect that application, but in the case
this
of
one, it
this
does not.
particular
It
application,
does not.
there's no applicability for this particular revision.
Correct. It was just when we were going through the contract. This was highlighted and I wanted to bring it to the attention of council.
So since we are in the queue, it may negate what we're going to receive because of the EPCOR situation. Am I understanding that correctly?
It is possible.
Mr. Mayor, you got a question?
No, I've got a comment. I think in previous discussions with EPCOR, this was kind of brought up. Water Trust Board funds. We were told through them that they were able to use these funds.
Who told us that?
As long as the city did them.
I think Daniel, when he
Not
was
the Water
here.
Trust.
No.
Not the Water Trust Board.
No.
He said they've
But
done it
they-
in the
they
past.
had used these with other, like Clovis and some other cities that they serve.
Well, I would say then that, I mean, I guess if the way that this has been
As long as we
presented,
disclose
as,
it and they approve it, then.
yeah, and as
I'm
long as we
okay.
continue to own the property.
Yeah. And we're not planning on
As
changing.
long as we continue to own the property, I don't see that there's a
I
problem.
don't either. And I think it'd be a good discussion point for Thursday, but I don't see it holding us up at this particular point.
Can I ask, you said that that section was highlighted when y'all were going over it?
When Steve was looking.
So that's something that you noticed going through it?
Yes, there were certain things that I met with Chris and Steve and went over the contract, and these were, I read it ahead of time several times and reviewed it and just looked at areas that I wanted to them to understand, to make sure they knew they were in the contract. Or the the contract agreement.
Further discussion? What's the pleasure on this particular item?
Make a motion, we approve.
Motion by Mr. Lopez.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Lopez, second by Mr. Elkins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Next item, request approval of the intent to adopt the ordinance approving an economic development project for Enchantment Vineyards.
This is the intent to adopt the ordinance for Enchantment Vineyards to the Mexico Economic Development and Enchantment. So this is not between the city and Enchantment. This is a state agreement. The city is just a fiscal agent. And since the state requires project ordinance, this is how we have to go about it. And then on the November 12th, we will get the intergovernmental agreement and the project participation agreement.
Questions for Mr. Moyer? What's the pleasure of the council?
Make a motion, we approve.
Motion by Mr. Rattler, second by Mr. Merrick. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries.
Abstain. This is my business interest.
Okay,
Thank you.
so do you have that?
Yeah.
Thank you. Next item is request approval of resolution number 2024-43 to evaluate franchise agreement between Xcel Energy and the city of Portales.
This is on the agenda as per council. So,
Yes, so I would like us to discuss the possibility of just evaluating our current electrical supplier, Xcel Energy. I feel that there's been some concerns on surveys for new meters, new construction. Along some other things that were not being serviced adequately. I would like to read a letter from President Johnson of EMU.
I mean, you're welcome to read it, but we've all got it in our packet, so.
Well, for the public, basically, President Johnson's been waiting on for over 2 months for a new service to basically put a light pole for one of his facilities so he could have functions and events. And I sit on economic development with President Johnson, and he shared his frustration based on our last council meeting. Based on what Eldon said, it kind of spurred this ahead, in my opinion, but I think, in my opinion, that's the right thing to do. Council can vote how they want, but I think there's some merit to it. And, if you get President Johnson's support, and he highly encourages everybody to evaluate our system, I think we should.
Well, under this resolution, my question, I'll wait to see if anybody else has questions.
I don't know.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I don't know that I have a question, but I have a comment. As a property manager, that manages over 200 properties, we have to call Excel regularly. Probably more than once a week, sometimes more than once a day. And most of those calls are 45 to 50 minutes before we get what we need to do done. That's on a good call. So for my personal opinion as a business owner, it would be fabulous to be able to have a local office to walk into. So if we reevaluate and look at other options, I would want in the contract with anybody we negotiate with that they have a local office in our community so that we can have someone to talk to.
Anybody else?
Yeah, question. So when we talked about this at our previous meeting, we have a contract with Xcel Energy at this time, correct?
2038. It was signed in 2015. It's a 25-year contract.
Which I understand is pretty common on franchise agreements, 20 to 25 years.
Right.
And I think this resolution is just giving us the option to explore other avenues of bringing in power. Doesn't mean that we're going to do it. It just gives us an opportunity to explore it. So if it looks like it's not going to be a good deal, then we wouldn't have to pursue it. But I think it's it would be a good thing for us to pursue and make sure that we're receiving the best service for our citizens. That's why I brought it up last meeting, and why I continue to support the idea of looking at other options.
Mr. Mayor, I do think, I mean, obviously our first thing is to see if it's even possible to buy out that contract. If that's not possible, then this is something for the council of 2036 to worry about.
38.
Well, 38, which
Yeah,
I'm not gonna be
36 would be a good time. to
I won't
start,
be
but
around
I
for
will be-
that, but anyway,
80.
if it's not possible, then that ends that discussion as far as I'm concerned for this particular council. But if it's a possibility to buy it out, then we can see what all we can do.
Well, that was kind of going to be my question to Rustin or whomever is where do you start? I think the first place you start is you sit with Xcel
Yes.
and say, hey, you know, what's the possibility of this happening?
Yep.
And you know, I was a little concerned when I read it about legal or procedural steps that would be undertaken, and I was just kind of wondering who was going to pay for that. But I have absolutely no problem in looking into it and everybody seeing what the possibilities are, if there are. So,
I have one comment.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Jake.
Okay.
Okay, so when we had David Essex as the community relationship manager, he'd come to our meetings and he would, give us updates and what they were doing in our community and that stuff. Well, when he retired or he moved on, we haven't had that in some time. So I believe since the last meeting, Mr. Lucero, which is the new community relationship manager, emailed to show interest in if we have questions or anything that we need. I'm thinking the comments. Oh, yes. And I did email you and tell you that I would call you tomorrow. But I mean, I think it's I think we should give them an opportunity also to correct what we feel is needed before we I think with what we're doing with EPCOR and the water utility, I think we're just trying to throw like fires, like coals in each fire when we need to put one fire out before we move forward, because it's like we're spinning wheels and we're getting nowhere, in my personal opinion.
Isn't there a rumor that the co-op's gonna buy Excel? That's what I heard.
I haven't heard.
That is news.
I haven't heard this.
Huh?
That's news to me.
Well, it wasn't news to me, but I heard it.
There you go. Ms. Robinson, you have a question?
Yeah, if there's interest on non-service provided by Excel, have there been any follow-up with Excel to have them to come in and say, we can do this to correct the problems. Because if this is a personnel matter, you would do an investigation and then you would get the information. And then you make your determination whether or not you want to fire the person. And I think that Excel need to have an opportunity to come and present themselves and then what they're doing in this.
And I think that's what we just kind of talked about.
Okay.
I think it's bigger than a personal issue. I think
No, I
organizational
just use
issue.
that as an analogy.
Yeah.
I didn't use that as
Sure.
the issue. It's just an analogy. That's how you would handle it in personnel, and you would handle this the same way.
Any further discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, what's the pleasure of the council?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Merrick, a second by Mr. Rackler. Ms. Richards, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Selk,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
No,
Mr. Elkins.
Abstain. I work for another utility.
Thank you. Mr. Merrick,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Cordova,
No.
and Mr. Rackler.
Yes.
What is that? Just to announce the vote.
5 yeses, 2 nos, and an abstain.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Sir, you might want to pass your card out to everybody. Well, that concludes our action items for the regular meeting. We'll now move to council and staff comments. We'll start with the chiefs in the back.
We have new hire testing on November 9th, and you hear anybody looking for a job. And they become like some facilities, like they did something wild, and it's in our way. Love that. We're great people working with us. As you're well aware, we received funding for 2 new ambulances, one through ARPA, one through a grant and capital outlay combined. We're hopeful that those will be in January, February, March.
Okay, Ms. McClellan? Ms. McVeigh?
We'll be doing Safe Trick or Treat on Friday at the library. We participate every year, but we'll be doing it again this year. And then next Thursday on October 31st, we'll be having a Halloween party from 5 to 6:30. So if you've got kids, they can come play games, do a craft, hang out before they go trick or treat.
You have to be kids.
How was your attendance on your board game night? I was curious about that. That looked like something really interesting.
It was slim that night, but the ones that were there, we did have a good time. So we'll definitely be doing it again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The city will also be presented at the safe trick or treating, so we'll find a spot on the square, probably by the police officers, and be distributing candy as well from that time frame. So
I'll be gone Monday through Wednesday next week. I'll be in Albuquerque for the infrastructure conference.
Mr. Elkins?
Nothing.
Ms. Lopez?
No.
Mr. Merrick?
Nothing.
Mr. Roberts?
no.
Mr. Rackler?
Just happy birthday to my wife. That's good to say the least,
Oh,
but happy birthday to my wife.
happy
And I will be having my second knee surgery on Tuesday of next week, so it probably won't be at the next meeting, but be back after.
Spartan?
No.
Mr. Merrick?
Well, I've got all this.
We saved our streets.
I just want to remind everybody, the American Legion is having a work day in the cemetery this coming Saturday. Starts at 9 AM. They've been raising up some of the headstones that have been buried. Also want to give kudos to Mike and Gary for their continued work there. They moved from the parks out to the cemetery and keep plugging away, and it's really starting to make a difference and look good. So appreciate them doing that.
Thank
you. We all know the situation that happened in Rossville. And I've got several drainage issues here in the city of Portales that I think we need to look at and see if there's ways that we can alleviate the problem. One of them is in the addition south of town on 21st Street. All of those houses that were built there gently slope back to the north, and pretty much all the water tends to run south and east. So that just creates a big pool. And so in the corner of each one of those little cul-de-sacs, they have built a retention pond. And those work fine as long as we have normal rainfall. But every time we have a huge rain, those fill up and then they back up into almost into the houses of the residents around there. And I've got several that have relayed their concerns about that, especially what happened in Rossville. You know, if we have a huge rain, then their properties could be damaged. So I've looked at this personally, and I think the only solution is boring underneath the highway and going down 21st Street with a drainage line of some sort. Maybe that could be converted into a canal after you get a certain ways down there past the houses. But to give some kind of relief to those retention ponds.
So that area that you're talking about is one that we're actively looking at and trying to get funding for. It's also one that was looked at back in 2018. And there has been a survey, and there was a paper done on like a design and plan to alleviate some of the problem. Back then it was $81,000. We're working to get a new quote just for the design and plan of that. I know that was part of it. I think that talked about accessing or buying more land, and the pricing on that I think was over $1 million. Don't hold me to that. I'm not positive, but that is an area that we are actively looking at and trying to secure funding for.
You would almost end up running into, I think it's a little over a mile.
Correct.
First Street.
Yes.
Drainage. Low to get over the road.
Yep.
So, but I think it's something, and it really should have been done by the developer and in coordination with the city, whenever that was done. But before they ever started building houses, they should have brought in fill dirt the other direction and sloped the drain back to the south. But that's hindsight. So the other thing is, and I brought this up before, we've got to get something done with our drainage ditch on Globe. I mean, the elm trees are overrunning that thing. And if we have a situation come up like we did in years past, where the fire department had to go down and use their ladder truck to rescue someone that washed into that ditch, those trees are going to obstruct that. We're not going to be able to do that. Now, further down the drainage, it does clear up, but we've got a good 300 or 400 yards or more that's just all elm trees. We've got to be able to get those cut down and get them poisoned where they don't come back, and keep that ditch going down. I just wanted to bring those two things up because those are something that we've got to do is a preventive maintenance, so that we don't see a problem like Rossville State. And you know, if we get a rain like we had a rain close to what they did, we had, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago, we had that 5-inch rain that Sunday afternoon that just sat in here and rain. That's the first time that I've had water come up in my yard. And I'm off of Globe there. But the ditch was clean whenever that happened. It's
Right.
not clean now. So.
And there are sewage and drainage grants that we're going out for. So it's just a matter of getting more money. But I will look into the elm trees and
I just like to see those put on your radar and
Sir.
see if we can get something. The other thing I was just gonna mention again, the workshop on Thursday with that, of course. Thank you.
I just have there was a notice in our packet that I just wanted everyone to be aware of. It's for area transit. They are gonna be closed from the 28th to the 1st of November due to shortage of drivers. And also if you are looking for a job, they are accepting applications. Then the other thing is I am going to request that the BNSF Nicholas Rafer be on the next agenda so that he can give grant program highlights and partnership opportunities and discussion through a Zoom meeting. So
Great.
I will email Chris and Danielle so that they can coordinate the Zoom and the presentation for the community. That's
Anything?
all.
That's it. Well, I'd like to wish you a happy birthday
Thank you.
again. And Councilman Merrick stole part of my deal, but the
46.
town hall, or not town hall, but the workshop with at 4 o'clock on Thursday in the big room. Okay, that may be the difference. It's gonna be in the big room because this facility was already being used, so.
On that, can I ask, staff is meeting with Epcor before that?
10 a.m.
And then, so 4 o'clock is the only time that it's open to public?
Correct.
Okay.
Wish we could have set that up just a little bit sooner. We've got a banquet that night.
There's a lot going on. That's true. But this was their schedule, not ours. So we made it work for them.
Understand.
So,
Yes.
okay, with that, our next item is an executive session to convene in a closed session to discuss matters as provided for under New Mexico statutes relating to limited matters pertaining to the sale of city property. I need a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Parker, second by Mr. Self. Ms. Richard, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Self,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Elkins,
Yes.
Mr. Merrick,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Cordova,
Yes.
and Mr. Reckler.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We will now go into closed session. We will welcome to come back in, and if we have any action, we'll take action at the end. Yeah. A second.
We do that again?
Did you get it?
Oh,
A motion by Mr. Merrick, a second by Mr. Robinson to come out of executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. I will state that only those items that were announced in the motion to go into executive session were discussed. No action is needed. No action was taken, and nor is any action needed. So with that, we are adjourned.
Thanks. You left it like.